All right, so we have a few people joining here. Some familiar names. Hi, friends. Oh, hi, Jordan. Hi, Kim. Hi, Melissa. Oh, lots of familiar faces. Bob, this has been an interesting experiment moving from an in-person conference to webinars. Yeah, so it's been a strange year for us. So we are excited to be going back in person in November. So
Very good. We actually decided to do another virtual conference
are
in
you this fall?
October,
Okay.
But I'm sure in 2022 we'll go back to an in-person
Yeah, good,
conference. So
good, good. All right, looks like quite a few people have entered the meeting. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for being with us today. My name is Carrie Acevedo. I'm the Executive Director at Rockford Area Habitat for Humanity, but today I'm wearing a different hat. I am a board member for Habitat Illinois and your conference director for the last several years. I am super excited today to have Bob Palmer with us. Bob has been a friend of Habitat affiliates in Habitat Illinois for many, many, many years. You've probably seen his face at our conferences and at lots of different things that we do around the state as it relates to housing. Bob's the policy director for Housing Action Illinois, and he is going to keep us in the loop today about all of the cool things that are happening statewide and federal, with federal advocacy. So Bob, thank you so much for being with us today. We're super excited to have you. And we are excited to learn about all of the things that are happening in the world of advocacy that affect our homeowners and our affiliates. Thanks so much, Bob, for being here.
thank you, Carrie, for having me. And it's good to be with all the Habitat members from around the state joining us today in this world of Zoom that we've all got so used to during the pandemic. So for those of you that don't know, Housing Action Illinois, we're a statewide coalition of groups like homeless service providers, nonprofit housing developers, including several Habitat chapters, housing counseling agencies, centers for independent living, public housing authorities, some local governments, some banks. We have about 150 or so organizational members throughout the state who've all joined us because they want to be partners and supporters of our mission to make sure that everyone in Illinois has access to a safe, affordable, decent place to call home. We have a variety of programs. We do some training of capacity building for housing counseling agencies or working with first-time home buyers or working with people on their financial wellness or trying to avoid foreclosure, or even counseling people increasingly on their rental housing needs. We also have, and I think some people in this meeting today have participated in it, we have an AmeriCorps Vista program funded through the Federal Corporation for National and Community Service, where we place AmeriCorps members doing a year of service or maybe a summer of service in our member agencies. There's more information on those programs available at our website, which is housingactionil.org. I'm here as the policy director to talk to you today about our state and federal level work as it impacts renters and homeowners and people who experiencing homelessness. As Carrie said, there's a whole lot going on. I think that the pandemic has really refocused attention on the importance of housing as a basic human need, because obviously earlier in the pandemic, we were all encouraged to stay at home as much as possible. And for people who are homeless or people who are doubled up or some other type of unstable housing situation, they've had real challenges doing it. And we've had the the eviction moratorium at the state and federal level, the various protections against foreclosure at the federal level. There's lots of emergency rent assistance and mortgage assistance that I'll get to in a moment. And I think all of that combined in the minds of, the general public, the media, and importantly, our elected officials has again refocused attention on the need to ensure that everyone, regardless of their income, has a safe, affordable place to call home. So I know the Habitat chapters are very focused on homeowners. So as much as possible, I will try and target my comments on homeowners, but just to give you a full sense of kind of the universe of things that are happening, we'll talk about rental assistance and a little bit about homelessness assistance as well. And I would say, feel free to use the chat or the Q&A for questions. And during my presentation, which is going to be a total of like 15 or 20 minutes, Carrie will feel free to interrupt me with chime in with questions or comments from her and others, and I'll respond to those. And then probably at the end, we'll have some more time for questions or comments. So the first slide I have here is on the emergency rent and mortgage assistance that's available right now. And this actually complements rent and mortgage assistance that was available in 2020. And I know Illinois, I think more so than any other state, made the decision to take funds from the federal government in the pot of money called the Coronavirus Relief Fund and invested about $325 million, about 300 million plus of that, or I'm sorry, 200 million plus of that for rent assistance and about $100 million for mortgage assistance that assisted tens of thousands of households across the state. The slide you're looking at right now is focused on the resources that are available right now for people who've had a hard time paying their rent or mortgage. So the Illinois Housing Development Authority, IDA, Illinois' main state housing agency, has a program for rent assistance right now that's available through Monday, June 7th for housing providers or landlords to initiate an application. And then tenants will have until June 14th to complete their portion of the application. An additional round of funding will be available for tenants to initiate an application if their landlord didn't participate. There's also funding available through the Illinois Department of Human Services, through their various community-based organizations that they provide financial support to. For the IDA program, you're really applying through an online portal through the Department of Human Services. You actually would contact one of the IDHS funded agencies and they would help you figure out how to apply. And then there's also utility assistance and other resources available for renters, but also homeowners through the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. So I've got on this slide here, one of the main websites that people can go to for the rent assistance is illinoishousinghhelp.org. This is a website that IDA and other state agencies developed. There are also some dollars available through local governments. And so we have a list of those programs available on our website at housingactionil.org/COVID-19. And they have various application deadlines for those programs. And some of the local governments that got funding for rent assistance from the federal government in this round are actually partnering with IDA. I believe the total amount of funding available in this round of funding from the federal government statewide is about $835 million, of which about $560 million is going to the state of Illinois and the rest to other local governments. But actually later in the year and into next year, there'll be even more emergency rent assistance available. So again, I think just because of the way the pandemic has played out and the fact that there have been lots of protections in place for homeowners, at least those that have federally insured mortgages of one kind or another through Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or the FHA or the Veterans Administration or USDA, which is about, I believe, 70% of all mortgage holders in the country. There are protections that are, for the most part, still in place, requiring lenders to offer forbearance and prohibitions on foreclosure. But probably later this year, unless they get extended, those programs are scheduled to come to an end. And to kind of, these forbearance programs, again, assisted people in terms of allowing them to delay making mortgage payments, but it's not a mortgage forgiveness program. So there is direct mortgage assistance coming later this year through the American Rescue Plan in Illinois. And this is a program that's going to be administered by the Illinois Housing Development Authority again. There will be about $400 million available through the Federal Homeowner Assistance Fund. If you look at the IDA website right now, there aren't any details available on this program yet, but I included this rather long link, and the slides will be sent out to people participating in this Zoom meeting today, where you could just be able to click on that and go to the Department of Treasury federal website and look at the details for the homeowner assistance program. And I think it'll operate, there'll be some differences, but it'll operate similarly to the Hardest Hit Fund that maybe many people on the Zoom meeting remember. That was the homeowner assistance program available in the aftermath of the Great Recession and the foreclosure crisis several years ago. There's also a requirement that IDA do some planning for the homeowner assistance program before they actually get it going, including having a public comment period. So we'll be sharing that with all our members and allies, including Carrie and other folks at Habitat. So if people want to comment on that, they'll be able to. And before going on to the next slide, maybe I'll just pause here and see, are there any questions or comments to respond to, Carrie?
Not yet, Bob.
Not yet. Okay, well, I'm just going to keep going.
Yep.
So there's a lot happening at the federal level, and in a couple slides from now, I'll get into kind of advocacy opportunities, again, focused on the homeowner assistance. But probably people are well aware that the General Assembly sessions actually was scheduled in on May 31. They're still meeting to iron out some issues that they didn't figure out, including what they're doing in terms of a clean energy bill. But one of the bills that passed at the end of the session that we're working on for quite a long time now, even some of this going back before the pandemic, was House Bill 2621, which came together in the final days of the session, and we're very glad to say passed with unanimous bipartisan support through the General Assembly, and we're calling it the Affordable Housing Omnibus. Again, a lot of it is focused on rental housing, but there are provisions in here for homeownership as well. So there's more money that's going to be set aside for the development of affordable housing. As part of the American Rescue Plan, in addition for that future rental assistance that'll be coming from the state of Illinois and that homeowner assistance program that I just quickly summarized. Also, there's discretionary dollars that are going to state and some local governments. And so this bill, House Bill 2621, created a COVID-19 affordable housing grant program to finance the construction and rehabilitation of affordable multifamily rental housing. In this, not in this particular bill, but in the state budget that passed, the General Assembly did commit $75 million that we hope is the first of additional or subsequent financial commitments to develop affordable rental housing. It also, the bill, House Bill 2621, establishes a property tax assessment incentive to encourage the owners of multifamily buildings with 7 or more units to invest in their properties and keep rents affordable. It's quite detailed, so I have a more detailed summary of those property tax provisions if people want to see them. Again, this is focused on rental housing. It'll be available in Cook County, and other counties in Illinois can participate unless they decide to opt out. There's also a longstanding state law called the Affordable Housing Planning Appeals Act that's really focused on communities that have the least amount of affordable housing in the state, which are mostly like in northern Cook County and Lake County, a handful of other places around the state. It's had some good successes, but some communities have not complied with the requirements in that bill to do local affordable housing plans, so that was strengthened in that. To get into the homeownership parts of this bill, I think probably some people on the call have used the state donations tax credit to develop affordable homeownership opportunities as well as rental housing. So one change that I think was advocated for by the Illinois Housing Development Authority and other developers who've created homeownership opportunities through the state donations tax credit advocated for is to increase the income targeting for the homeownership created through the tax credit. It had been and is currently 60% of area median income. But once this gets signed into law, it would increase income targeting for homeownership projects to 120% of area median income. And I won't go over these last 2 bullet points in the interest of time, but it made other improvements to give more resources for IDA to create affordable housing, including increasing their bonding authority, which IDA can use for both rental and homeownership projects. So in the remainder of time I have left, I'll just talk about advocacy opportunities. Right now, I think people are probably aware that Congress is working with the White House to negotiate a major infrastructure package. President Biden, we're very glad, has a very expansive definition of what counts as infrastructure. So it's not just, roads and bridges and highways and mass transit and that type of thing. It also includes affordable housing. And so in his $2.3 trillion infrastructure proposal, the new Secretary of HUD, Marcia Fudge, just proposed a total of $213 billion. She provided more details in of what President Biden is proposing. So there is more money for the federal low-income housing tax credit. One specific thing that is on homeownership that I think will be attractive to Habitat chapters is that it provides funding for the Neighborhood Homes Investment Act to rehabilitate more than 500,000 homes for low and middle income homeowners. They have another slide on that in a moment. It provides $45 billion to the National Housing Trust Fund to create rental homes for people with the lowest incomes, $40 billion to rehabilitate and preserve public housing, $35 billion for the home program, which again can be used for rental or home ownership. For communities that have zoning that doesn't allow for affordable housing, it would create a $5 billion incentive program, I think kind of a pilot program that will provide flexible funding for jurisdictions that take steps to reduce barriers to affordable housing production, especially zoning in their communities, money for lead-based paint and testing and abatement, money for housing for seniors, more money for project-based vouchers, and there is more funding for the USDA homeownership program, Housing Needs in Rural Communities, Housing to Address Climate Change. There's a lot in this bill, and we hope it passes. The last couple slides provide some more details on this Neighborhood Homes Investment Act. So this would be a new federal tax credit that would, I think, complement the existing low-income housing tax credit that's focused on rental housing. But this tax credit is focused on homeownership, and it would create new equity investment dollars for the development and renovation of 1 to 4 unit family housing in distressed urban, suburban, and rural neighborhoods. And basically what the funding would do is would fill what the supporters of this are calling the value gap. So let's say it's costs you maybe $130,000 to build or rehab a home, but in a certain community that's well above what the market rate is going to sell homes. And so this Neighborhood Investment Act would fill that gap so you could rehab or build a home for $130,000, but then sell it, let's say for $80,000 or $90,000 if that's what the market can bear for an affordable home for sale in those communities. And there's a whole website, neighborhoodhomesinvestmentact.org, where you can read about this. There's been a coalition of organizations working on this for a few years now and hoping that it will be included in the infrastructure package, but if not, it will pass as a standalone bill, and it does have broad bipartisan support. There are also various proposals out there for down payment assistance. The one that we're most focused on, and I think has the most, getting the most attention at this point, is a proposal that's being championed by the chair of the House Financial Services Committee, Representative Maxine Waters, who's from California. And this particular bill, which again, there's hopes it'll be included in the infrastructure package, is really focused on first generation home buyers, primarily, although you'd have to look at the detailed language of the bill, but it's really focused on people's parents who did not own a home, to kind of address the fact that parents help, in terms of more affluent households, parents often really help their children buy homes. But if your parents aren't homeowners, it's a good sign that your parents are not in a position to help you buy a home. So that federal government would step in and target, not exclusively, but there'd be kind of preference given for first generation home buyers, and home buyers would be able to receive up to $20,000 in assistance, or $25,000 in assistance if the home buyer qualifies as a member of a socially or economically disadvantaged group based on their race or ethnicity or other factors. Again, home buyers have to have an income at or below 20% of area median income. And there's this long link here that, again, when you get the slides, you'll be able to click on and get more details. But I think if you Google Down Payment Toward Equity Act, that link from the National Council of State Housing Agencies is one of the first ones that comes up. So I see that's the end of the slides. So I'll pause there. I'll go back to the first one so you can see my contact info if you want to follow up with any more questions. So I'll stop there. And have any other questions come in, Carrie, or do you have any that you've thought up on your own that you want to ask?
Yeah, so tell us, so the National Housing Investment Act is a tax credit, right, that creates an opportunity, it creates a tax credit for the gap between total development cost and appraised value, correct?
Correct.
So in your example, you said, say it cost us $130,000 to build a house or rehab a house, and then it appraises for, say, $90,000. So there's a $40,000 difference there. How does the Habitat affiliate then recoup that as liquid assets?
Excellent question. I just had a longer conversation with someone who's really an expert on this particular package a few weeks ago. So some of the details uh, have to be determined. Uh, it is a tax credit, so it's not a direct cash
Right.
outlay. So I think the hope is that it'll be a simpler program than the existing low-income housing tax credit program, where it gets very um, complicated, but there is a good chance that somehow there's going to be have to be at the state um, level. So the tax credits will be awarded to states, and it seems like there is going to be have to be a syndicators involved that will basically take these tax credits and then make them available to like big corporations and others that, you know, have federal tax bills that they're trying to lower, and then they will sell these tax credits and then make them available to different types of entities,
Yep.
both for-profit based developers, but I think there's a real emphasis on making sure that community-based organizations, including Habitat chapters, will have access to be able to use these tax um, credits to make affordable homeownership opportunities in your communities. It's not totally clear yet, I think, to what extent, you know, let's say a Habitat chapter or just even a private, you know, individual owns a home. If they, let's say they're doing one house, are
Mhm.
they going to be able to make, take advantage of these tax credits? Or will there have to be some sort of critical mass of, you know, let's say 4 or 5 homes in you know, a defined geographic area that will maybe be bundled together to make use of these tax credits? A lot of these details need to be figured out in the final language of the legislation, and then also based on the plans that, like, for example, the Illinois Housing Development Authority would have for how they would make these tax credits available.
So what role will IDA play through like with the Neighborhood Investment Housing Act?
Well, each state would get an allocation of tax credits based on, you know, what's approved in the, you know, through the infrastructure bill or a subsequent budget legislation. And there would be an allocation to states with a each guaranteeing that each state gets a certain minimum of tax credits. Of course, Illinois is one of the bigger
Yeah.
states. So in all likelihood, you know, the IDA would get the award, and then IDA would have to develop a plan similar to the qualified allocation plan that they have now for the low-income housing tax credits that focused on rental housing.
Yep.
And I think it'd really probably be at that point, although certainly through the national Habitat organization. I think, you know, the individual chapters in Illinois will be, you know, keeping in touch with the National Habitat, and also you can do so through Housing Action
Yeah.
Illinois to keeping track of, you know, what final language gets included in the infrastructure bill or some subsequent bill to create this tax credit. But then once it passes, hopefully, if it does pass, I think once the tax credits actually got awarded by or awarded to IDA, that would be the time for more sort of intensive
Yeah.
involvement on and advocacy about paying attention to how actually individual Habitat chapters or others would they actually be able to capture the tax credits, which will undoubtedly be awarded on a competitive um, basis based on how well you know, applications meet whatever the mandatory requirements are, but whatever other, you know, there might be a point system to determine who actually gets the awards of tax credits based on a competitive funding round.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. I'm going to do a shameless plug here at the end. For those of you who are not currently members of Housing Action Illinois, you should seriously consider joining. So Housing Action Illinois is a membership organization that lobbies on our behalf on a daily basis without us ever really knowing what they're doing for us. So Bob and Sharon and the team at Housing Action Illinois has always been a huge supporter of Habitat. Our own Sheila Dodd, who used to be the executive director at Champaign affiliate and is now the board president of Habitat Illinois, is a board member of Housing Action Illinois. We are a membership organization for a reason. There is safety in numbers, right? The larger our voice, the more organizations that belong to Housing Action Illinois, the louder we are. And so when Bob eloquently goes and talks to our policymakers on behalf of those of us, working in housing and especially affordable housing, when he can go in and say, we have all of these organizations that support us, including all of these Habitat affiliates, there is strength in that. There is such an opportunity for us to have an amplified voice, a powerful voice as it relates to housing on a local level, a state level, and a federal level. I don't want to put Bob on the spot and ask him to tell everyone to be members, but I will tell you, become a member. If you are not currently a member of Housing Action Illinois, please take the time to do some research, become a member of this important, powerful organization who behind the scenes is doing the work of our organization's advocacy efforts without us even knowing it. So let's have some powerful conversations, and let's ensure that each Habitat affiliate takes that opportunity to become a member of HIA or HAI.
Oh, well, thank you, Carrie. That's so very kind. And I actually just did these slides this morning between a couple other meetings. So I did not include our website on this slide, but on the slides that I'll email out, I'll add in our website, which is housingactionil.org. And we have our membership page. Really, what Carrie said is the most important reason why we want to have members, because when we have a strong coalition, when we're talking to elected officials in Springfield or in DC or even at the local level, sometimes saying we have 150 organizational members, or maybe at some point based on this meeting we'll get up to like 160 or 170. It really helps demonstrate the constituency for making sure that everyone in Illinois has an affordable place to call home, regardless of their income. So we appreciate having members. It does generate a little income for us, and the membership dues are a sliding scale based on your organizational budget. We also do have some individual members, but we also do offer membership fee waivers, and we're pretty generous with those. And I know the pandemic's been hard on the budgets of lots of different types of organizations. And so we do offer membership fee waivers. And then we also just have an email list for our policy updates. And so if you'd like to be on that list of your work or personal email address, you can just get in contact with me and I'll add you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. And thanks so much for having me today.
Yeah, thanks for your time today. These 34 minutes that you've spent with us are incredibly important, but more importantly is the time that you spend advocating on behalf of our families.
Great. Thank you. And Habitat's an important partner in that. So.
Yeah, thank you. We are not all well-versed in advocacy. We are not all comfortable meeting with legislators and having conversations about different House bills and Senate bills and appropriations and all those kinds of things. And so on behalf of the families that we serve across the state of Illinois, thank you for all that you do for us.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now.
Yeah, we are pleased to have you as a partner and look forward to all the good things that'll come with this new administration. So
very good. See you soon.
Yes, thanks, Bob. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next month.